Okay, just getting the live stream up and running. I think we're just about there. So, we are going to go on something of a magical mystery tour around the Paris area this morning with the COWS DA42 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So let's just have a little look at the aeroplane first. So I need to go and put this on the drone camera, don't I? So this is the plane we'll be using. So I'm just going to slow the drone camera down so we can actually go and see it sensibly. So if you've never seen the DA42, it's a lovely little aeroplane. It's got a glass cockpit, which I know kind of isn't the normal kind of aeroplane I use for this sort of thing, but it will make life very easy for us. It's got twin Garmin G1000 screens. So we wander around the aeroplane. It is a very, very fast little aeroplane if you need it to be. So anyway, let's go and have a look at what we're going to be doing today. So a couple of days ago, I installed the Paris VFR Airports add-on from Orbx. I thought this would be interesting. We'll go and visit a number of small airfields, not realizing quite how big an add-on this is. So it extends, it mentions several airports in the, or airfields in the notes, but it actually extends 23 of the airfields around the Paris area, which makes it one of the best value add-ons for a commercial add-on for the simulator. So I've loaded it into a little nav map, and I've added them all onto a haphazard flight plan of sorts, which goes and visits all of the ones that are now lit up with a yellow circle, which means they have custom scenery. So you can see there's a lot of them, and they're all the way around the outside of Paris. So yeah, that's the Paris VFR Airports add-on. So obviously we're going to be flying the DA42, also downloaded from Orbx. So there we go. So if I minimize that out of the way, go back over to the simulator, and we'll go and see about... Actually, before we get the airplane running, let's go and have a look around this first airfield. So we're starting out from Chéron. So let's go and lift the drone camera into the air, and we'll see what we get. So if this is a sign of what's to come over the next few hours, I am going to be super interested to see the other airfields. So we got a glide, obviously a glider school here, lots and lots of gliders everywhere. And mobile homes and some buildings and obviously hangars or sheds and a grass runway alongside the farmers' fields. But it's really nicely done. There's also a vintage French fighter jet. I've forgotten the exact name of it. I'm sure the live stream will jump in and tell me what these are called. Is it a Magister? I can never remember. I'm just going to change my view on my second screen of the live stream chat so I can see it all. Is it a Fuga Magister? I can never remember the name of the various different aeroplanes. So there are figures at various airfields as well, so you can see one down here, and they're animated by the look of it. This guy's here with his... Oh, there's a pet cat at this airfield. Very cool. So let's go without further ado. That windsock looks a bit like it's too close to the building, doesn't it? Looks like it might foul on it, but anyway. Is this a piece of aeroplane in the floor over here? Oh no, it's just a a marker. Okay, let's go and jump in our aeroplane and we'll go and start circling this first airfield. and get on our way. So I've filled the airplane completely up with fuel. As far as I remember, this airplane's quite straightforward to start up, although the sun isn't helping us with lights on the cabin. I'm going to turn the electric on. There we go. The camera has just refactored itself enough for us to be able to see what's going on. So we can exit out the checklist. We're not going to bother with doing the checklist, and we'll go and look, and we should have a flight plan. Yeah, we've got our flight plan loaded in already, which is going to take us off around the countryside. So we'll wait for the system to fire up. So we'll turn the engine switches on both sides. And we should, I think, yep, the fuel is already on. There we go, we have oil pressure both sides. Systems are slowly coming on. Put the pitot heat on. Avionics master switch on. Calibrate the altimeter. Radios have just come on. Calibrating the gyros. Okay, I think we're ready to go and taxi out. So let's go and get the head tracking on. So I have turned the weather off. There's pretty foul weather in... Whoa, we're rolling backwards. So we're going to roll out to the shorter grass. Go and have some fun. The stall heater fail will disappear as soon as we're in the air. Just going to check the volume levels as well. Yeah, so it's quite a noisy aeroplane, but I've turned it down for you guys, so it won't be too noisy for you. Okay, final check around, make sure everything's looking good. We shouldn't need flaps for takeoff from here. Got a nice long field. That might not be the story at all of the airfields we visit. Gear up. So as you can see, the airfield which is taken off from is on a step above a valley. So we'll do an about turn. It's okay, we're just going a little bit slow. I don't want to go too fast until we've had a look at the airport. So this was the field we've just taken off from, so this is Chéron's.
500.
I'm going to apologise in advance for my pronunciations of place names during the day, because I'm not a native French speaker. My last experience of the French language was at school about 30 years ago. It's pretty good, isn't it? You've got two runways here. Aeroplanes parked everywhere. Okay, so our first stop is going to be about 120 degrees or so. So we're going to go whistling off across the countryside. And we can have a look at the CDI mode. So we're going to put it into GPS mode to keep things easy for ourselves today. So then if we go and enable autopilot, and we can go for altitude hold. It's on roll hold at the moment, so if we say nav mode, it will track the GPS track for us on the way to the airport, and we don't have to worry too much. We get to enjoy this wonderful rolling French countryside this morning. So the next airfield we are heading for is going to be Lay-Maro. So I know nothing about these places in advance. I suppose I could go and look them up on Wikipedia, but we'll just take them as we find them. So Hunergal is saying no Flight Sim 2024. I'm waiting for it to come out the same as everybody else. I'm not going in early with the tech previews or anything. I'm just going to turn the sound of the engine down in my own ears, and I might turn it down a bit for you as well, otherwise it's going to get quite annoying, isn't it? Last thing you need is having me shouting over the top of the engine the whole flight. So when we get to each airfield, we'll obviously orbit it, decide which runway we're going to use. There's hardly any wind today in the simulator, at least. So if I show you why I've turned the weather off, that's why. You wouldn't actually get to see much countryside. So we're going for few clouds on purpose. Okay, so we've got about, does it tell us up here how many miles to run? It should do somewhere, shouldn't it? 4.2, 4 miles out. So what do we actually get before we get there? So you get a distance to the next waypoint, bearing, ground speed, track angle, and estimated time en route, so 1.5 minutes away. So I've not flown into any of these airfields before, so this is going to be new for me as well. So we can have a sneaky peek. So we're looking for a grass runway alongside the river. So there it is. So we'll come off autopilot and we'll loop around, cut the throttle back, So if we do left pattern in and roll up to this end of the airfield, there appears to be quite a lot down here to go have a look at with the drone camera. Looks good, doesn't it? So there's 2 runways marked out in the grass. Quite a number of buildings and aeroplanes dotted around. Okay. Let's get the gear down. We haven't got our lights on yet, have we? Hello, simulator's just frozen. There we go. Position lights and strobe lights should have been on all along. Put the landing lights on as well. It's a long runway. So I may extend my landing.
500.
So flaps down. Let's go and cut across between the runways so we can go and see some of these other aeroplanes before we go and have a look around with the drone camera. Of course, this isn't the cut grass, so maybe we will stay on the runway. That's better, isn't it? There's quite a lot of static aeroplanes around. That's probably what caused the stutter on loading them in. So what I'm going to do is pull off at this end of the runway, go and park up in amongst the other aircraft. I'll leave it running. And we will use the drone camera to have a look around and see what's been built here. It's pretty cool, isn't it? So we've got some figures. Fueling area. Some sort of operational buildings with the European and French flag there. Float plane. That seems a bit out of place up here, but there you go. Is he led on the ground? I've never seen that in the sim before. They've tipped him over on purpose, haven't they, to look like he's working on the aeroplane. So, in the real scenery look, there's something rather interesting down here. I wonder what that is. those with an eye for historic aircraft can probably tell us. So I'm being asked in the live stream, will I still be returning to 2020? I don't know if I'm going to keep both installed. I'm keeping an open mind at the moment. So if we speed up the drone camera, come back down the airfield. Lots of hangars and lots of aeroplanes dotted around. Okay, so we move on to the next airfield and see what comes next. So let's get rid of the drone camera. We can take off back out the same way. The wind, there's no wind to speak of. Okay, just waiting for the speed to build. And rotate gently. And we're in the air. And gear up. And flaps as well. Okay, so next airfield, we're turning left and we'll get it onto autopilot on the way, and then we'll go and have a look and find out about the next airfield. You can already see the runway lights. It's interesting. So I've gone for autopilot, so it's going to pull ourselves onto an intercept course back onto the track. Pull the throttle back. And let's go and find out where we're going next. So, Myel en Vexin. So, two large runways. We'll orbit the airfield to have a good look at them, and then land on one of them. So we can see the lights, leading lights on runway 05. So some of these legs on this trip around are going to be quite short. Some are going to be a little bit longer. You can see towards the end, there's lots, one after another. Okay, so back off the autopilot. And pull the throttle back to at 70%-ish. And we'll orbit first and then come in for an approach. There's lots of bales in the fields here. And they've modelled them. There's lots of static aircraft as well parked out down there. Some sort of kart racing track on the outskirts of the airfield. So if we double back, given that we've got very little wind, and come in runway 12, should take us straight into the buildings, and then we can go and have a look around again. Okay, so get in. And flaps down. Get it lined up. I didn't notice if the other runway had any VASI lights or anything. I'll go and have a look in a moment. It's interesting, this COWS DA42 does seem to hang on the flaps. As soon as you remove power, it sinks quite dramatically. So we're going to go and park over near the tower, I guess, and then get the drone camera out. Let's have a look. Yeah, there is a taxiway. So just reading the live stream chat there about Steam versus Microsoft. All the Steam version is the Microsoft version with another layer of delivery software around it. So it gets installed in the same place. It doesn't go into the Steam Common Apps. And the mechanisms around using the Xbox Game Store, you still have to use the Xbox Game Store. So it's not really owned. Steam is being used as a delivery partner. That's all. But it does mean you've got something else in the mix. Which you wouldn't have otherwise. This airport looks good, doesn't it? Of course, whether the installation mechanism for 2024 will work in the same way is anybody's guess at the moment. So let's go and put ourselves on the corner of here, shall we? Can I leave my lights on? Actually, no, let's go and turn the landing lights can come off. And we'll go for a nose around the airport. So what do we get? This one. So should we go and remind ourselves of the name? So this is Corelin en Vexin. It looks good, doesn't it? Considering they've done so many airfields in this pack, I'm actually really surprised at what each one has. Okay, all they've probably done is put all the static stuff in place. But it also seems to be an awful lot of detail in each airport. So you've got hangars, some sort of clubhouse over here, Aero Hispano Club Suiza. Or Hispano Suiza, sorry. Aero Club Hispano Suiza. I've got all these aeroplanes parked up. It's a flying school of some description, I guess. Okay, so Farmers Fields. And the runways. And Farmers Fields the other side as well. I wonder if the bales will appear and disappear with the new scenery engine in the new sim with the seasons. Okay, should we go and taxi back out? So just reading down the notes in the live stream comments while we're taxiing out. So Zstalk's asking if there's actually any material differences between the versions of the sim. No, I think it's the same as before. That it's the packaged stuff that comes with it. So you're essentially buying packages, but the core simulator is the core simulator. As far as I'm aware. I may be wrong. It's worth checking. I've been wrong before. Nice long runway, no flaps required. We'll just get some speed up and get in the air. Okay, rotate. Gear up. So, next leg, we need to double back on ourselves. So we'll go left hand out across the countryside. So Frank James is saying, is 2024 going to have better landscapes? Yes. Seasons have been implemented properly. The trees have been redone. And as you get closer to things, fractal generation has been used to increase the detail exponentially. So even down to the point of, if you're on the shore of a river, for example, each individual pebble is becomes a 3D structure that the water mask flows around. and the branches of trees are individual structures when you get close enough to them, if you have enough grunt in your graphics card to run it at that level. But it's significantly improved close to the scenery and the depiction of the seasons as well. Okay, let's get the autopilot back on. We'll go and toggle the altitude hold to go for 1500 feet. And let the aeroplane straighten itself out. And see where we're going next. So we've just left, where did we say it was called? Cormeil-en-Vexin. We're going over now to Persan-Beaumont. So we've got 11 miles to run to get there. I may go and make a very high-speed cup of coffee in between Myel and La Place in Belleville. Okay, so it should take us about 3.5 minutes or so to get there. All short legs. Pylons. Also, coming in the new sim in terms of the physics engine, there's going to be more points of reference on the airframes apparently. They've improved the computational fluid dynamics even further, and it has wake vortices modelled behind the aeroplanes. So yeah, it's going to be super interesting. You try and taxi round behind something big, or even fly around a circuit of a big airport when there's, you know, the heavies are flying in and out. You're going to take your life in your hands. So suddenly following airways and staying away from the big airports will become kind of important. But yeah, I really don't know. Just reading Frank James' comment there. Oh no, something's loading in front of us. Frank James' comment there. I really don't know about accuracy with houses. I doubt it, because that's based on just, you know, the AI engine. It always used to make me laugh, even with 2020. People would say, you know, oh, it's got every building in the world in it, or an approximation of, but my house doesn't look anything like my house. I haven't had that car for 18 months. We haven't had that tree in the garden since 2 years ago. But it's got the whole planet. Everybody seems obsessed with their own house and seeing how accurately modelled it is. Like, you know, Asobo are going to come and visit you and measure everything. It makes me laugh. Should we turn some of these lights on in the cockpit, see how bright they are? They're not. What about the floodlights? In daylight, it's not going to make any difference, is it? So we can see the airfield coming. So if we go and get a little look at it on the map. So we've got 2 grass strips and an asphalt strip. Or asphalt strip, I should say. So we're just coming in over the town of Persan and Chambly to the left of us. So if we go and look from the outside view, we can see there's Persan and Chambly, and we're going to go and do a lap of the airfield, have a look at it. So there's one of the grass strips, there's another one, and there's the hard runway. You can see there's a disused runway as well. So I'm going to turn the autopilot off. and we'll have a look with our own eyes to see what we get. Hey, I forgot that this whistles when you side slip. I'm just holding the nose up so we can see over the engine cowl. So yeah, we'll double back. There's so obviously a disused runway over there. We'll come into this nearest asphalt runway. So get down. And although it's marked as long, look, it isn't. Well, maybe we should use the grass runway. Decision time. Do we go grass or do we go for the hard standing? Should go for the grass runway. It's a bit more fun, isn't it? Makes a bit of a difference. We'll go for the far left one. So we'll just hang out on the taxiway here rather than go exploring this forest of roads. So we'll run along out onto the taxiway and hold short there. And then depart the way, well, we could depart on the hard runway, couldn't we, in a moment? So parking brake on for the moment. Let's switch over to the drone camera. And let's go and have a look around. So, this is the proper parking area. So again, more figures. They've done a good job with this, haven't they? Working on the aeroplanes. There's all manner of different aeroplanes here. Oh, look, some interesting stuff over here. Lots of robins around. You'd expect that though, wouldn't you, this part of the world? It's very cool. They've done a good job with this, considering they've done so many airfields in one pack as well. Aero Club Paris Nord. Interesting. So, if we take off on the new hard standing runway over there, before we go, let's go and see where we're going next. So we're going to take off to the east, turn right, and then we're going over to Myel. Okay. It's only a few miles away. Okay, here we go again. And rotate. Gear up. And we have a right turn towards the next airfield in Myel. So I guess it's just over these hills, looking at the map. So we've got a little bit of climbing to do. So yeah, I very much doubt we'll get through every airfield today, but we'll get as far as we can. Spend a couple of hours at it at least. So keep me busy through the week, won't it, until the new version of Flight Sim arrives. Is it Tuesday it arrives? Something like that? I guess nobody's going to be online on Tuesday because it'll all be downloading. Although I do understand it's not as big a download as it used to be, so... Okay, we're just coming in towards the GPS track. Level out. So while we're en route, let's have a quick look. I think I'm mostly trimmed out. So Myel, there's a one grass strip and the parking area at this close end, so we'll come in runway 25. We'll orbit around the back of the airfield and we'll come back in runway 25. So we've got to spot the airfield now. So just over the main road. Get my bearings in terms of these various roads and junctions. So it's directly off of our left wing. There it is. So if we loop around and come in at the far end. So gear down. That will give us a bit of drag in order to drop the flaps. And there we go, we're just about in flaps range now. First stage of flaps. You can see them. It's got quite big flaps on the DA42. Next stage of flaps. So full flaps. So if we just pull over across the end here. Parking brake on. And drone camera, trusty drone camera, here we go. So let's go and have a look. So there's our little aeroplane. So let's go and have a look. So this is Myel. We have bicycles. Very cool. And conversations. A rather interestingly dressed person here. Obviously came on the bicycle. And oh my word, there's a little ultralight down here. Very cool. So, just looking around to see what's around the area. It's quite a simple little airfield, this one, isn't it? Just a grass strip, a few buildings, and some hard standing and a fueling point. And this does look like an inn of some description here. I wonder if it's got a name on it. No, it's just... I don't know. I'm sure you could look it up on the map and find out what it is. Seems to be a lot of cars parked around there. Maybe it's a pub. Especially as it has tables. Anyway. Let's go on our way again. So when we leave here, we're going to be leaving to the east, going to Le Plessis-Belleville. So just go around these rather large bollards, which will probably make mincemeat of our propellers if it was an accurate simulation. We'll go for this nice green grass over here. rotate. And gear up. And we head east. We're almost on the track immediately. So climb out to at least 1,000 feet. See if we can get this thing to go a bit faster. Okay, there's our 1,000 feet. Autopilot on. And it will gently climb up towards 1,500 along the way. So we do have a couple of minutes, so I'm going to take advantage to go and make a quick coffee while we're en route. So hopefully it shouldn't take too long. I'll leave it on the outside view and turn the head tracking off. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, I'm back in the nick of time. So let's have a look at where we are. Le Plessis-Belleville, or Le Plessis-Belleville. So we got grass runway and a hard runway and lots of parking. So yeah, we'll do the usual thing: orbit the airfield and come in on the hard runway, because then we can taxi straight in. Runway 25. So can we see it out in front of us? Not quite yet. I love this little aeroplane. I'd forgotten how good it was. So we're closing in. Someone was asking the other day why I don't use Navigraph typically for this sort of thing, and I'll show you why. So if we go and find our aeroplane. Oh, it does actually have this airfield, but a lot of them will be missing. So if we go to copy flight plan to the keyboard, unload that one, do a new flight, sorry, to the clipboard, not the keyboard, and do that. Oh, it may have many of them, so we'll try it. We'll try this on the VFR map in Navigraph as well on our way around, and we'll see how we get on. So maybe it's better than it used to be. So we can see the airfield now. So let's get off the autopilot and back to head tracking. And we'll loop around. Hopefully bleed off some speed on the way past the airfield, drop the gear, will obviously give us some drag. Wonder if the weather has improved at all since an hour ago. No. So we're not going to be using the real weather because you're not going to see any countryside or anything. You'll just see me doing an IFR demonstration, which wouldn't be quite as much fun. So gear is down. And first stage of flaps as well. So we'll just extend downwind a little bit. Just enough to be able to turn in and land. We've overshot the turn slightly. Wheel brakes, flaps up. So is that a crane with a Cessna on it? I wonder what happened to the Cessna. They're recovering it after a bad landing, maybe. Ended up in the farmer's field over there. Ripped its wheels off, maybe. Gonna have to go and have a look at that with the drone camera, aren't we? So if we stop here, then we can circle round to go back out again in a moment. That's quite amusing, isn't it? I've never seen that before in the sim. So some poor flight student has put their plane in the farmer's field and they've had to go and get the crane out. So let's go and have a look around anyway. So this, let me go and double check the map, see where we are. Le Plessis Belleville. Le Sec, sorry. Le Plessis Belleville. And Silly-le-Long. Well, some of the other place names nearby. Otis. Oissari. Saint-Suplet. Okay, let's go and have a look around. So they really like their ultralights around here then. Lots of aeroplanes parked up. The usual assortment. Some helicopters further up. Cirrus. Another one. Okay, we got to go and have a look at this, haven't we? So we've got another tractor over here. He's obviously working on these bales and wondering what they're going to do about lifting this Cessna out of his field. I think this is great. I love things like this. So is there a guilty-looking pilot stood nearby? Oh dear. What's this marked on the ground? Is that supposed to be where the undercarriage was ripped off? Maybe. Airport scenery is static. It never changes. Although you'll get, obviously, if the weather changes, you get snow will settle. So the simulator does simulate snow loading, things like that. What's this all about? Is this like some sort of growing? Cover. Okay, so let's go on to the next airfield. Center the view up. So we're going to be travelling southwest over to Le Pen. So we're going to be crossing across the back of Charles de Gaulle on the way. So we probably, in all reality, we should head out southeast and then cut back, but we're going to straight line it. We're going to be rebels. This isn't the real world. Should we take off from the grass strip rather than the hard strip? Just centering my view up. I just realised I was craning my head at a crazy angle to see the... Okay, so is there a cut grass route to get to the runway? If there isn't, I'll use the hard strip. Okay, we're just going to go through the grass. Going to cut the grass for them. Okay, watching the airspeed. Rotate. Gear up. Goodbye, Mr. Farmer. So let's go and have a look at the map. So yeah, we're doing a right turn. So about 220, was it? Should we scoot over to the co-pilot side? Have a gaze out of his window. There's the airfield we've just departed. Slowly gathering speed as we climb. Coming up for 1,500 feet. Just letting the aeroplane track itself back onto the GPS track. So you can see it's kicking in. It's in GPS mode on the autopilot. The CDI is showing GPS on the HSI. So we've got a few minutes now to track across the back of Charles de Gaulle, which is out there in the fields. Oh, here it is, sorry. I think I'd have been able to spot that, wouldn't you? So if we go to the drone camera, and we go zooming up in the air, we should be able to see Charles de Gaulle. There it is. And if we look way down there, our aeroplane is so small down there we can't even see it anymore. But there's Charles de Gaulle Airport. Okay, let's come back down. And there we are. So we'll probably be in all sorts of trouble with the aviation authorities for having crossed the flight path of Charles de Gaulle. So next on our list this morning is Lima Foxtrot Papa Hotel, which is Le Pen, and we will be there very shortly. We're trundling along about 145 knots. There's an Air France aircraft, an A319 has just taken off runway 26. So Orly is just down to the southwest of us as well. I doubt well, we might get close enough to see it. Obviously, you might see some aeroplanes on approach, because they'll be only a little bit ahead above us when we get there. Down to Emanville. Or Ville, I should say. So we're pretty close to the city when you look across. We're just skirting around the edge. So here comes the airfield. So we have 2 grass strips and a parking area at the far end. So what I'll do, I'll orbit and come in for runway 22, which will make sense to see the parking area. So yeah, the parking area is down in this corner. So if we fly around, so let's come off the autopilot, pull the power back. We're going to orbit the airfield and then come back in on this runway, and then we'll get to park up near the buildings. When you see doubled up markings on the ground, that is a fault of Flight Simulator that's been present in it since it first launched. Grass airstrips, they never work correctly with masking the scenery underneath them. It has never been fixed. I was talking to one of the developers of one of the scenery companies, and yeah, they were wringing their hands about it. It's always been a problem with Flight Simulator. So where you get scenery where they try to mask out the ground underneath, they can't with the grass strips. Unless you only... Apparently there's a bit of a quirk in it. If you only have that one airfield installed, it will work. But if you have more than one, the bug shows up. They need to cut their grass, don't they? It's a bulldog. Okay, let's have a look around this airfield then. Need to remember how this works all of a sudden. Yeah, this one really suffers with the show through of the underlying textures. It's not too bad. So I don't know if it's fixed in 2024, but it's never been fixed in 2020. It must be a similar issue to the Horizon bug as well. Or, well, I say similar, probably completely different part of the code base, but something that's intractable to fix. Okay, so where do we go next? We're making very pretty pictures on the map, aren't we? We were flying these various approaches. So we're going south to Emanville. So let's go and have a look. 2 hard runways, quite a big airfield. It should be interesting. So it's just across the road junction, so it'll be easy to spot. Set back in the front, shall we? Going onto the runway. Oh, we're supposed to go through the cones. Okay. Rotate. Scrape the trees on the way out. Gear up. Perhaps I should have gone more for a short field takeoff with flaps there instead of a normal one. We'll see. Okay, so we double back on ourselves and we carry on down to the next airfield. See the city over there in the distance. Oh, I would say, just reading a comment there from Jay Foot saying, good to know Europe still has some GA life left. There are so many airfields the small airfields in France and England, or United Kingdom I should say, because they're dotted all over the place. There's a big house here, look, with a formal garden. I wonder what house that is. It's been modelled. I'm going to drop down and have a look at it. Okay, football pitch. So we should see the airfield fairly soon. Just over the other side of these trees by the look of it. So there's the road. And there's the airfield. So yeah, if we orbit again, come in at the far end, then we get to look at it from overhead. It's got a lot of hangars, doesn't it? So I'm just extending downwind and then we'll come back in on runway 26. And then go and have a nose around. So gear is going down. And flaps. Overshot the turn, but oh well. That was more of a carrier landing than a nice smooth GA landing. We'll take it. I don't actually need fuel, but I think this is the only major exit off the runway. This is busy, isn't it? There's a lot of stuff here. Should we taxi up through the middle of it all? My word. It's Robin. And we'll do an about turn up here, shall we? If I just park here for the moment, and we'll move the drone camera back over to us. I've got hiccups now. Great. So, as you can see, there's a lot of airplanes dotted around in between the hangars here. And this building's modelled. And some of them even have some custom textures on them. Very cool. This is a restaurant, apparently. What's it called? The Le Briefing. Very cool. So tower, car park, more parking. So a grand caravan parked over here. Fuel area. Even more GA aeroplanes down this end. There's a helipad there as well. My word, it's a busy place. Okay, so if we taxi back out of here and we'll continue on our way on our magical mystery tour of the Paris VFR Airports. So just center the view up, off the parking brake. How are we doing for fuel, by the way? We're fine. I've hardly used even a quarter of a tank yet. Lots of robins. I guess that comes with the territory. So, should we taxi out this way? And hope there's another entrance onto the runway at the end. Using head tracking. I'm just reading the live stream comments there and being asked, is this head tracking or VR? I've got a Tobii head tracker. Full disclosure, Tobii gave me a head tracker as a bit of a sales program about a year ago, 18 months ago. I'm not sure I would have spent the money on it myself if they hadn't given me one, but it has changed the way I do things enormously. Okay, full throttle. Here we go again. And rotate. And gear up. So, next leg, turn left. So we're heading northeast again. Back away from the city. So if we look out over our shoulder, we can see the city in the distance. So coming up to 1,000 feet. We'll let the aeroplane go on to autopilot. It will intercept the GPS track for us and slowly climb up to 1,500 feet of its own accord. Come off the power a bit. There's no need to be going quite this fast. And I can drink my coffee, which I haven't touched since I made it. Okay, so if we look over our shoulder, you can see there's Paris spread out behind us. So we're slowly making our way around the outside of Paris, going around all these small airfields. So if we go and have a look at Navigraph, we are on our way out to Esley is the name of the place, but the airfield has a different name, I believe, on here. Oh no, it's just Esley. That's fine. So where's it near? It's interesting, isn't it, when you get several places near an airfield, but it gets the name of one of them that's maybe not as close as some of the others. Same thing happened where I grew up. I grew up in a town called Carterton in Oxfordshire. RAF Bryce Norton is on the edge of Carterton. During the Second World War, there was an airfield called Cardington. Because of the existence of Cardington, RAF Bryce Norton got named after a small village about 2 miles away, or a mile away, from the airfield. Whereas Carterton is at the edge of the airfield. So yeah, RAF Bryce Norton was not in Bryce Norton. The end of the runway, I guess you could argue, was. But the actual, the entrance to the base and all of the facilities were on the edge of Carterton. Anyway, there's probably a very common story all over the world with that sort of thing. I've just turned head tracking off so I can sip my coffee without the screen going bananas. Yeah, so being able to look around, if I turn Toby on a second. So I've just centered it. It does tend to drift a little bit, so you map keys to recenter it. So it allows you to lean forwards, obviously, and look around. Lean back, look out over your wings. It's it's a game changer. The interesting thing is, though, it's calibrated, so that's probably only about a 20-degree tip of my head to do 90 in the sim. It's amazing how quickly your brain changes itself to do that. So we are at the next airfield already. So we're going to loop around, and this is where head tracking comes into its own. Grass strips galore. And some nice buildings to go and have a look at in a moment. So let's go and side slip our nose up to keep the nose up and hopefully not stall the aeroplane. It does help enormously being able to look around on approach and keep your hands free. I mean, you can still do it with the mouse, but that ties a hand up to use the mouse. It's an interesting thing, actually, where I've been using the Thrustmaster Airbus Captain's Pack for the last, 3 years. It has taught me that it taught me to fly left-handed to begin with, so the joystick's in my left hand, which frees my right hand up to do other things. Like, to press the center key for the view or whatever it is, move the mouse around to point things out or to adjust things in the aeroplane. It didn't occur to me how important that was of flying left-handed until I went and bought a new joystick recently. And I haven't used it beyond the first hour because I realised the joystick is a hotel setup and is set up for the right hand, which means I would then have to use the mouse and keyboard left-handed, and that's a nightmare because I'm very right-handed. So it's a uniquely simulator-specific problem. Okay, so if we loop in and land on this runway here, or maybe the further one. So gear down. What's the speed? Yeah, we're within flaps range. So flaps down as well. So you'll see the flaps going down. Need to give it a bit more power. It's like a bowling green here, isn't it? So if we slow down, and is the grass cut around this side? It's difficult to see, isn't it, in the sim, because it doesn't spawn grass until you're on top of it. So we'll just park at this edge because we're leaving again in a moment. There's no point parking up in amongst all of the other aeroplanes. Going to leave the engine running and go to the drone camera and go and explore. So let me just remind ourselves where we are. So this is Esley. So let's hang us this side. A very modern control tower. Very cool. And I couldn't help noticing that the other side of the airfield there's more. Let's go over and have a look. So we've got a fueling area. Another one of these bags. I'm guessing this is to do with growing things, but I really don't know. Or is it just to cover up salt, maybe? Maybe, who knows? Somebody in the know will probably tell us. I love how you can hear the bird song when you're near the trees in the simulator. It makes a huge difference. Okay, let's fly the drone camera back towards our little aeroplane. So we'll go straight out, back down this billiard table of a runway. And, oh no, I thought the simulator had messed the views up then with its classic trick it does where it misaligns everything. Don't worry about the flashing warning on the G1000, it does that until you're in the air. We've got lots of fuel. If you look down here, you can see it. We've hardly used any. Okay, let's just have a quick look before we set off again. So we're going to be flying southeast over to Wassel. So we'll see how we get on. And rotate. And gear up. And begin the turn. Keep it on the indicated airspeed. We don't want to go and stall it. Say goodbye to Esley. Okay, so we'll just get the aircraft somewhere near the track manually, and then we'll switch to autopilot, and then I get to have another sip of my coffee. Yes, the bags could be fuel bags. Yes, that hadn't occurred to me, of course. Yeah, that makes total sense. They often use those bladders in the back of big aircraft, don't they, to transfer fuel or to carry fuel around. Okay, so we're just coming up to the GPS track, so we'll go and back onto autopilot, climbing up to 1500 feet. And we're on our way again. So next on our trip is Voisson, and then down to Fontenay-Troisiny, I guess that's pronounced. Then Les Loges and Villaroche. I guess we tried to get to Villaroche on this trip, and that'll be a good halfway point to call it, and then we'll do the rest another day. Let's see how Navigraph represents this. So it actually gives us the circuit diagrams in Navigraph, which you don't always get, and it's been doing it consistently actually. So we should have really been, if we did this properly as a proper flight, we could actually, you know, go and learn the patterns at each airfield, which would be great fun. And you'd be looking for the visual reference points for the corners. So we can see the airfield. So, someone's asking, hey John, are you a pilot in real life as well? No. No, just on the simulator. It's just an interest. Some would say an all-consuming interest, but I've always played around with flight simulators. I grew up very near to RAF Bryce Norton, so there were always aeroplanes around. But yeah, shortly before the pandemic, my dad upgraded his computer. When my dad retired, he became interested in flight simulators himself. I'd messed around with, you know, all the fighter jet ones and stuff when I was young, and with Flight Simulator. But I didn't have a computer capable of running a flight simulator for years because we had a young family. So as any parent will tell you, all money just disappears into kids clubs and after school clubs and school uniforms and a million and one other things. But then about a year or so before the pandemic, my dad upgraded his computer and he gave me his old one. I suddenly had a computer capable of running Flight Simulator, which at the time would have been FSX and Prepare 3D and X-Plane. I went straight for X-Plane at the time because I knew that it was much more accurate at the time. This is back in the X-Plane 11 days. So I joined him and his group of friends down in the southwest of England via the internet. They they still have an online group called Myel that I've mentioned from time to time, and they do group flights a couple of times a week. So I tagged along one evening with the intention of watching. I had previously learnt to fly the Zibo Mod 737 in X-Plane, a very accurate version of the 737. And before I knew it, I was actually taking part in the flight. And that was the end of that, really. So then, from then on, every week, I joined them and flew all over the world with their band of followers, and they do a very relaxed version of ATC. So you do actually have radio telephony with them where you can talk to ATC, which made it great fun. It is a bit hair-raising the first few times you do it, but then you realise ATC is there to help you, and it's kind of transformative in a strange sort of way.
500.
But yeah, since then, and then obviously during the pandemic, I started putting content out with Flight Simulator. I worked straight through the pandemic, it's worth pointing out. I wasn't furloughed. So where lots of people had lots of opportunities to pursue their interests, I just did it by not sleeping, basically. But yeah, so everything I've learned has been either through self-learning in the sim or reading books, or, and this has been the strangest and most unanticipated one, I've had endless retired pilots email me explaining, helping, giving tips. It's been absolutely brilliant. Telling stories. Some of the stories I can't share because they were things that shouldn't have happened, but did. But they're endlessly entertaining. But yeah, so the knowledge that's been imparted to me, flight instructors as well. I've had quite a lot of feedback from real-world flight instructors who have helped enormously with, you know, things that without doing the book learning you just wouldn't know. But then during the pandemic I also then went and bought a load of books, and that helped as well. So the interesting thing was, by the time I bought the books, reading through them, I'd pretty much learnt how IFR works without going to the books. What the books really taught me was the procedural stuff of how you should do it. I don't obviously follow it very often. But when I do, you know, set out to do things properly, like I did a flight with the, what's it called? The Avro RJ100 the other day, and did it more or less correctly and followed the procedures on the charts correctly. And yeah, so when I put the time in, I can do it. It sometimes makes it a bit dry and boring for those watching. It's like starting an aeroplane up. If you sit and work through all of the start checks, you know, with checking mags and all the rest of it, you can be here for half an hour before you actually move the aeroplane. So I very rarely do any of that. Anyway, let's go and have a look around this airfield, shall we? This is being a so-and-so, isn't it? It's not showing me the free camera. No, now it is. So, what do we have here? So it's worth pointing out, yeah, so also during the pandemic, I monetized the channel. So I got it, made it as far as 1,000 subscribers, and that allowed me to monetize. So that's why you see the adverts on my YouTube videos and live streams, and that pays for airplanes, basically. So that's why I've been able to pay for airplanes, and over the course of about 6 months I saved up enough money to buy a new computer, which is why I've got this 4090 now with 64 gig of RAM, which was expressly bought for Flight Sim 2024. But that meant, yeah, saving up for over a long period of time, just as anybody else would. This airfield's quite well done, isn't it? It's worth pointing out for anybody coming into this late, all of these airfields are part of one pack with about 24 airfields, I believe it is, that are all the VFR airfields around the outskirts of Paris. It's incredibly well done. So if we go and jump back in our aeroplane. So along the way, I started writing procedures, like functional procedures, just kind of shorthand checklists to work through to get airplanes up and running. And I've started writing them for myself. And then earlier this year, I was giving them away for nothing and spending hours writing them. And then earlier this year, my other half turned around and said, you know, you really ought to make people pay for those. And I said, oh, they're not 100% correct, and you know, they are literally, they're whatever is simulated. They're not the real airplane operational handbooks, operating handbooks. And she said, but still, you invest the time in it. Maybe just charge the price of a cup of coffee from a coffee shop for them. So that's what I did, and again, that was a completely unanticipated revenue stream. I'm so not a businessman. So I'm just going to backtrack up the runway here. And then we'll turn around and take off. So along the way, various people have reached out to me as well. Because I've grown so many subscribers now, I think it's getting up towards 40,000 nearly. We're on our way there. Which again, I've never marketed myself, so it's all been organic growth the whole way. Along the way, because of the number of subscribers, I've got various commercial companies who approached me. So Navigraph have given me free subscriptions for time periods in the past. I pay for it now, but obviously they were pushing a new feature at the time and wanted me to go and make specific, videos. Orbx, I've got a relationship with Orbx. If I request something from them, about a 48-hour turnaround, they'll let me have whatever the scenery is. I tend to go and buy them though, because I don't plan that far ahead. And I have a relationship with Builds as well. So any of their in-house stuff I can get for nothing usually, but it depends when they release it. So, but again, I've bought an awful lot of stuff from Builds as well in the past, because I actually like supporting the developers if I can. A lot of independent developers have sent me pre-sale, or early access aircraft, which is always a double-edged sword, because if it's not finished, you may see bugs, and I always worry that will react, or that will reflect badly on the developer. Okay, why are we getting a beeping? Oh, it's because I had the flaps down. We just did an unintended flaps takeoff because I was busy chattering away. But yeah, so you'll obviously see on the channel I fly all sorts of airplanes all the time. I will admit I like the big jets. I like the complexity and the systems and figuring out how things interoperate. But I also like stick and rudder flying. So it's always an interesting one. Trimming this out and put the autopilot back on. It will intercept the next track on the magenta line over to the next airfield, which we'll go and have a look at. So Fontenay-Troisigny. So in terms of controls, just looking at the live stream comments there, I use a Thrustmaster Captain's Pack, the Airbus controller. So stick in the left hand, quadrant in the right hand. I have got now I'm going to have to look behind me to find out what this is called. So I'll just turn head tracking off. It's an X56 HOTAS, which I was just talking about, which I've used for about 1 hour, and then realised it was unworkable for live streaming because of the problem with it being very right-handed for the stick, which doesn't work well for using the mouse while you're multitasking, because you have to let go of the stick to grab the mouse if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, it would be fine. I don't reconfigure all of the switches on the throttle quadrant. So although it's got all of the Airbus switches for doing like the ignition systems, the auto brakes and all that kind of stuff, I never bother with them. The only switches I use are the gear, the flaps, the spoilers and the throttles. And I tend to map the throttles to suit whatever aeroplane I'm using. So the right hand throttle quite often becomes either propeller or mixture. One day I'll go and buy a yoke from, is it Honeycomb? They make the really lovely yoke. And the throttle quadrant that's got propeller and mixture. And having said that, I was sent a kit by, and I'm going to forget their name now. I was sent a kit to make a replica Comanche throttle quadrant, which I built and did a video and a series of photographs about the build process, in which case, in which I figured out I'm really not a builder. I mean, I did it, and I did it very carefully and well, and it worked first time. So yeah, I have got various other bits of hardware around, I just don't use them. So Mac Vision says he's learnt a lot from me. So I think that's the thing that I prefer doing over just doing the messing around in the airplanes, is transferring over what I have learnt for the benefit of others. Sometimes I'm wrong, and sometimes I will do things wrong and I'll get hauled over the coals for it, because, you know, I'll get accused of, I have an audience now, so I should set an example and I should do things perhaps a little bit more correctly than I do. So yeah, it's quite sobering sometimes to realise that there's an element of expectation there now that I should do things maybe a little bit more correctly. And if you tell the wrong people that it's only a video game, that doesn't go down well with them. So we're just passing around the edge of this airfield to have a look at it. So there's the strip. There's a massive crane right there, look. That's really handy. So I'm just going to double check that I have got this right. Oh no, that's not the strip. That's the strip. That serves me right for being distracted talking, doesn't it? That's an impressive road junction, isn't it? There we go, there's the airfield. So we'll loop around it and come in at the far end again. So let's get the airspeed under control. I think one of the things, it's kind of a backhanded compliment in a way, one of the things a lot of people have said, because I obviously don't edit anything. I just put the video out. The streams are live, and they're absolutely live. You see things when I've forgotten things, and you see mistakes, and you see me get out of them. Oh my word, there's an aeroplane down here. We need to go look at that. You see me get out of mistakes and correct them as I go. And apparently that's kind of become one of the things that people have said is very good and refreshing. Because quite often some of these professional pilots, you'll see a cut in their stream and you think, oh, we know what happened there, don't we? And everything goes well every time. So yeah, the PC I'm using was bought for 2024. Just looking at the live stream comments there. It's a monster. It's the fastest, most powerful PC I've ever seen or heard of. And I basically through an enormous amount of money that's going to take me months to pay for.
500.
But as my other half told me, she used to be an accountant, she said, no, you're investing in what you do. She said, you'll get it back. Obviously, it'll take time to get the money back, but... So the PC I've bought has got a 4090 graphics card, it's got the fastest CPU you can get in it, it's got the fastest RAM you can get in it, it's got the fastest NVMe drive you can get in it. It's a monster. Okay, let's go and pull off onto the grass alongside the runway, rather than... That's what we want to go look at. How cool is that? And more importantly, what is it? It looks similar to a Beverly, but it's not, because their wings were mounted higher. Let me just pull the drone camera around. So what is it? Does anybody know? So where are we? Let's go and find out. So we're at Fontenay-Trasigny. That's awesome, isn't it? Come on, mighty internet, tell me what sort of aeroplane this is. I want to know now. Very cool. Anyway, let's go and have a look around. So we got some seating here. We've got obviously a cafe of some description with a scooter and a bicycle parked outside, and then the fuel station. Some hangars. Yet another Robin. They must be super popular in France, I guess. That's cool though, isn't it? That little aeroplane. Or not so little aeroplane. Yeah, I'm going to have to go and find out what this is. So if we go and do an internet search for the name of the place. So Fontenay-Trasigny. So Fontenay-Trasigny aircraft. What is it? There it is. A brochure 763 Fontenay-Trasigny. Is the page going to come up? Brochure 763. There it is. It says a wreck of an old French aircraft. It's awesome though, isn't it? Never seen one of those before. And that just goes to show just how good this VFR set of scenery is, that they've put all kinds of things in like that to make it accurate. Fantastic. It's a custom 3D model of an old aircraft. Okay, let's go and taxi out to the end of the runway. I think we're going to need flaps for this takeoff. It's not the longest runway in the world. Okay, so we're doubling back as soon as we have taken off for the next leg. So, parking brake is off, flaps are on first setting. Let's go and center the view up before we do anything. Yeah, flaps are on. We'll hold it on the toe brakes. And off we go. And rotate. And we're up. Gear up. We'll hold it on the flaps for a while. It's not accelerating, look. Drop the nose a little bit, let it accelerate. Raise the flaps now. Make sure we clear the crane. Okay, so the next airfield is only a little way further down here. So if we come up to 1500, then the autopilot can kick in nicely and trundle us over there, and I'll finish my coffee while we're en route. I promise not to regale you with too many more stories. So autopilot on, it should track across to the GPS track, which it's doing. Gear is up, flaps are up, engine's looking good, running about 80%. There we go, we're just centering up on the GPS track. Say goodbye to the vintage aircraft. So, Lilloge is next, and then over to Villaroche. So, if we have a little look at the map, we could look at the Navigraph version, couldn't we, for a change? So we're coming in towards this airfield. So it does have a pattern, which I doubt will follow, because we're just going to orbit and come in on a close approach. That's it out there, isn't it? So Mark says, JB, on Tuesday, will you be doing a live stream first look at 2024? If it downloads. Yeah, I expect so. I'm expecting Tuesday to be a bit of a disaster. So I'm going to come off the autopilot because it was busy turning us away from our track. So this is our second to last airfield we're going to look at in this session from the Paris VFR pack. So we'll do an orbit of the airfield and then come back around. Decide how we're going to approach. An interesting one, isn't it? Lots of hangars. Again, the farmer has been given permission to grow his wheat or something on the airfield. Makes sense. Okay. So you've got the option here of an enormously long grass strip, or wide grass strip I should say, or the hard
500.
surface. I'm going to go for the hard surface. It's good practice doing these little touch and go kind of trips just to practice landing and basic stick and rudder skills. I see a lot of people doing flying the big jets and trying to use autopilot all the time, and it gets you into trouble eventually, because if you can't fly an airplane, you can't fly an airplane. Notice how much that sank as soon as I came off the power. I had to give it a boot full of elevator, or handful of elevator, I should say. More ultralights by the look of it. Another Robin. And a King Air down the far end by the look of it. So let's go and double this around here. Ready to go straight back out again the same way we came in after we've had to go and nose around the airfield. So straighten the camera up. So what was the name of the airfield again? This is Les Loges. So let's go and have a look around. I'm hoping I'm getting some of these pronunciations right. I should say I'm not a native French speaker at all. I believe we saw this person earlier. Rather unique apparel. So more robins, more hangers. There's a tomahawk. A DA, oh, is it DA20? The little ones with the composite body. It's a cub. And that is a, oh crikey, I'm going to get the name of this wrong. I'm on a live stream. Sorry, that was my daughter shouting through the doorway at me. I'm amazed I've got away with this for as long as I have in the middle of the day. Yeah, it's a good airfield, isn't it? All of these airfields have been interesting in their own way. Okay, let's speed up. There's another one of those bags stuck. I'm guessing they must be fuel bags. It would make sense, wouldn't it? Okay. So we're going to go do the last leg for today over to Villeroche and see how we get on. Keeping half an eye on the indicated airspeed, 60, 70, it gently rotates. Whoa, there's a bit of a crosswind going on. You see me having to crab into it. Gear up.
Check gear.
That's because I had the flaps extended at the same time. There's a bit of a check there. Because I wasn't sure of the length of the runway, I left the flaps down for takeoff. Okay. So last leg for today, we're going to continue across the countryside towards Villeroche. We're going to overfly back across the top of the airfield that we've just visited. Coming up for 1,500 feet. And pretty much on track for the GPS track. Let's climb that last little bit. So you can see that airfield vanishing beneath us. 1480 feet, 1500, there we go. Autopilot on. Let it track. See, look, it's crabbing into the wind. There's a little bit of a crosswind going on. We can actually show that, can't we, in the PDF options. There we go, yeah, so, oh, it's not too bad. Slight crosswind component. It's only 4 knots though. You wouldn't think it would affect the aeroplane that badly, would you? Let's get some speed on. Okay, wonder what the circular buildings are all about. Can we find out by looking on the map where we are and what we're seeing down there? Oh, it's nitrogen. Okay. So they're gas tanks. But the AI has done a very poor job at figuring out what they are. Okay, so our final leg for today takes us over to Villaroche. It's a bit bigger airfield than some of the others. And then another day we'll continue on and do the rest of the southern airfields around Paris. So we've done the northern side today and the eastern side. Booker Youngman, that's the aeroplane I was trying to think of. I just looked at the live stream comments. Okay, we should be there fairly soon. So as I said earlier, let me just go inside the airplane. It's quieter inside, isn't it? All of the airfields you've seen today have been from this pack, the France VFR Paris VFR Airports pack. So that's the name of the developer, France VFR, and this is the name of the product, the Paris VFR Airports. I got it from Orbx. So yeah, it's very, very good. Gives you a number of detailed airports all around the Paris area, so you can go airfield hopping. I am not injecting air traffic. This is just the stock. Where are we? This is just the stock traffic you're seeing that the simulator is generating. I could go and run FSLTL in the background, but I don't see a need to. Okay, here comes the final airfield. So we'll circle it and then come in for a landing and park up. So head tracking back on. Okay, turn off the autopilot. Slow down a little bit. It's an interesting airfield, isn't it? Slightly different than any of the others we've looked at. It's a bit bigger. So there's a tower here. Main runway's been extended at some point. Or maybe it used to be a lot longer and they've given up on that part of it and they just use this part now. Huge hangars, lots of aeroplanes. And huge industrial park over the other side. So I guess what we'll do is land from that end, taxi in, and park up with the rest of the GA aircraft. Gear down. So just extending downwind. We're a bit close to the runway actually for the turn. A bit of a Spitfire approach. Quite a long taxi back, isn't it? I should have run longer on the runway. I'm just going to go and have a look from outside. So obviously this is a runway. Yeah, we can carry on across then. It's incredible you can get so many of these airfields in one pack for such a sensible price. It's good. It really is. Oh my word, is that a Mirage over here? Or is it something different? We might have to go and park next to it to have a look at it. It's a Mirage, isn't it? Is it Mirage 2000? Something like that. Or I can never tell the different versions of the Mirage. How cool is that? Okay, so we need to go and cut our engine off. Okay, I guess to get rid of the warnings. Oh no, you can't click the button. Interesting. That shut it up. So, I've never played around much with this since it came out. But it's nice little aeroplane. Anyway, that was a trip around. Or we haven't actually looked around this airport yet, have we? We've got to be fair to all of the airports. So this is Villeroche. So it's a bit of a different scale than some of the others we've looked at. I'm guessing it used to be a military airfield given by all of this apron area. And given the longer runway on this end that's no longer used. So it must be a disused military airfield maybe. I don't know. It's interesting. There was obviously a lot more structure here a long time ago. And there were other taxiways, look. So there was more over this side, I guess. Originally. Okay. Oh look, they've left an aeroplane in the in the ground textures. Always makes me smile when you see those. Right, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you've enjoyed that today. So we've looked at the first half of or more than first half, of the Paris VFR airfields from Orbx. I'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching.